Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me be here. Maybe get this a little closer. And hello to those of you who are online in your space there, wherever it may be. My name is Andy McDonald, as Michael mentioned, and I am happy to be here speaking this evening. I'll do my best. I may or may not get to all the points I've got here on my notes. I'll definitely get to some things that aren't on my notes, though, because they always come up. And before I get started, I want to go a little bit down the same Brother Chi Sing train or track that Bobby and Michael spoke to earlier, since the anniversary of his birth was just a couple days ago. I first met Brother Chi Sing in the summer of 2010. It's hard to believe that it's been more than 12 years ago. A lot has happened in that time, yet it seems like it wasn't very long ago. And when I met Brother Chi Sing, he just recently opened the Floyd Road location, which was a little farther south here in Richardson. And I met him. He asked me about the yoga that I teach, and he said, "Okay, great, I want you to teach." And I started teaching yoga. And he was very supportive because in those days, there might have just been one or two people at most that would come to class. We did donation-based classes, and we just kept with those and eventually built up to quite a following. But perhaps more importantly, during my time with Brother Chi Sing is that he was a great mentor when it comes to the practice and the facilitation of meditation. He taught me a lot about what it means to meditate, and my practice grew and evolved a lot in the time that I've known him and since. And then he also co-facilitated with me to give me the opportunity to be there in person, watching him teach and facilitate and learn some of the ins and outs. And he was very good at meeting people where they are in a diverse group. And so I really gained a lot from my time with him. And the Dallas Meditation Center right now would not be what it is without Brother Chi Sing and his teaching, without the people that he taught who are now teaching others, who are teaching others. And so hopefully this center will continue to carry on. Okay, so why is it so hard to be still? How many of us moved at some point during that 25-minute seated meditation? You don't have to raise your hand. I'll raise mine now. Chances are that a lot of us did. Those of us that didn't move, there could be two things going on. Either we are very physically still and did not move, or we just weren't aware enough to realize that we moved because we did something out of habit, which happens a lot. And it's not critical to be still when we're meditating. There is no point to hold ourselves so physically still that we're going through a lot of excruciating effort to try to be that way. Sometimes it's better to move a little bit so that we can then get still again. Because in a way, stillness is very relative anyway. If we weren't moving so much, we wouldn't even know what it's like being still, and vice versa. Some of the things that make it hard to be still, and we've all experienced many of these things, and you'll probably think of more. But let's start with the environment. We have an abundance of environmental stimuli in our world. Anywhere we go, there's signs in yards, signs up in the air, signs on the street. There's cars going by, there's people talking, there's loud music, sirens, dogs barking, all kinds of stuff. We get on our phone, we get on the computer, we get on the TV, there's lots of information coming at us all the time. That tends to make us not be still. That's very much challenging to being still. Some of us may experience a social stigma around being still. It doesn't necessarily look very normal or usual to see a person being still. And so when people aren't used to being still and they see someone that is still, they may think, what's wrong with that person? Why are they so slow? Why does it take them so long to say what they want to say? Are they just lazy? Do they not know what they're doing? There can be a social stigma around being still, unfortunately. And we may have some unconscious beliefs around that as well, that we have to always be moving, doing things in order to be considered productive or valuable. what is just being still really accomplish for us in this world? We've been taught since the time we were born to do something, do more, do more. We can even look at the field of physics, right? Physics talks about entropy. Things always progress and evolve towards increasing chaos, increasing movement, increasing complexity. So even the science of physics tells us that things tend to not be still. They just get more and more busy. However, they started at a point of stillness. And then also we face challenges within mind-body. That could be related to our diet, to the kind of exercise we get, how we sleep. If we've got a lot of caffeinated beverages, energy drinks, we're stuck in a position where we can't get out and move a lot. We have to be sitting at a desk or something like that. Irregular sleep patterns, all these things can make it difficult for us to be still. So there's a lot of things out there that are actually challenging us to try to be still. Now, related to this, I'm going to speak about this concept, pratyahara. It comes from the yoga lineage, of which is my background, and that I have been studying in some sort since around 1999. Just a little bit back then, but it's gradually increased over time, studying it more and more. So I have a little bit of experience with it, and much like any concepts that are very big, what I really know about yoga is probably about like this. And that can be said for a lot of things that we study and experience. But I'll share what I can. In the classical system of yoga, there are 8 limbs. And if you've heard some of my other talks, you've heard me talk about some of these. Pratyahara is the 5th out of these 8 limbs. And it's kind of right in the center along with pranayama, which is related to our breathing and movement of life force or chi through our breath. These are right in the center, and in many ways, they connect the physical world that we live in with growth and evolution in the more meditative and spiritual world that we inhabit. So it's a very important limb to link us in that way, and it has a lot to do with stillness. The word itself comes from 2 Sanskrit words. One is prati, which is usually defined as a way or against, and then ahara, which is food. This isn't just like physical food that we eat, burger and fries, whatever that may be. This is anything that we take into our bodies from the outside. So with that, we could say that pratyahara, I want to get this right, you could call control of anything we take into ourselves from the outside. And that encompasses a lot of things, right? Another way of stating that is that pratyahara is about gaining mastery over the external influences in our lives. One of the common images that's used is a turtle withdrawing in its shell. Maybe you've all had the pleasure of experiencing a turtle one-on-one, maybe not. A turtle walks around, it eats, it drinks. If that turtle withdraws into its shell, its limbs disappear, its head disappears, and what happens? It doesn't move. It's right there, perfectly still, at least on the outside appearance. So this is likened to pratyahara in that the shell would be our mind. The limbs are the senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell, all these things that move us through the world. If we bring those back inward within to mind, then we get more still looking inwardly. And there's 3 levels that we can look at, or 3 things that influence these external things. One would be physical food. This actually is the food that we take in through our mouths, food and drink. Then there is also impressions. These are the sense impressions that I just mentioned. See, hear, touch, taste, smell, the 5 physical senses. All those things that we take in from the environment. And then the 3rd aspect is associations, the people that we are around. That's one that we often overlook. But anytime that we're around people, like here in this room, we are bringing things into ourselves based on who we're with. And then within these 3 aspects, you can look at the positive and the negative if you like. You can look at trying to open up to right food, to right sensory stimulation, to right association, and you can also look at withdrawing from the wrong aspects of all those things. We can look at it either way. And for each of us, there's ways in which we already have experience with pratyahara. We all did it here today. When you came into this room, you entered a place that is dedicated to meditating and being more still. That's a lot different than if you were sitting on the side of the road trying to meditate. This is an aspect of pratyahara. You sat down and hopefully turned off or silenced your phone. Disconnecting from the phone, from that technology, that's an aspect of pratyahara, reducing these outside impressions. Perhaps you closed your eyes while you're meditating. That's an aspect of pratyahara. It reduces the amount of distraction, helping us to go more inward. So all these different things are ways in which we already practice aspects of this without knowing it. But how can we make it deeper? And so I'm going to talk about a few things, then we'll actually do a few experiential things. So how can we take this aspect of pratyahara deeper within ourselves to start to reduce the amount of distraction that we face in this distracting world, so we can be a little more still, not just inwardly, but also outwardly, which will really support us in everything that we do, whether we're meditating, whether we're working, whether we're playing with our pets, with our children, whether we're conversing with loved ones. All of these things can benefit from us being a bit more still. So being still doesn't mean that we have to look like we are in some way lifeless and not interacting with the world. It's not about that at all. We still interact with the world, but we carry this inner stillness with us that supports us in that interaction. All right, so media fasting, that's a big one. That's what people usually generally first go to is, okay, I'm gonna just cut out some media. It can be hard to go cold turkey on media fasting. If you've ever done a retreats, a lot of retreats might have you do away with the phone, computer, all that stuff while you're at the retreat. What I would suggest is if this isn't something you do already or have thought about, take small steps. I said one step closer to stillness. Take small steps. Maybe you can turn your phone off for 5 minutes. Maybe you can do it longer. I find that for me, much of the day, if not all day, I have my phone on silent. I know for a lot of people, that's not possible to do because you have to be able to be reached. But if you do have to be able to be reached, surely there's still 5 minutes in a day you can put your phone on silent or airplane mode or whatever. And if you try it for 5 minutes and the world doesn't end, maybe a couple of days later, you try it for 10 minutes. You can set aside this time to try it. The same thing with internet, TV, computer. It can be very easy to get pulled into the internet, be on it very long, whether it's social media, news, whatever it may be. Set aside some time in your schedule to say, okay, this particular time of the day, I'm not going to look at the computer, and just see what it's like. It will be a different experience. If you like to listen to music a lot, and that music has words, try listening to music without words. Classical music, instrumental music, some of Cornell's Native American flute music. Even for just a few minutes, listening to music that doesn't have words puts our mind in a much different place than when there's lyrics. Even if we don't think we're following along with the words, our conscious mind, our brain is thinking about what those words are saying. Instrumental music has a different way of soothing our nervous system and helping to slow down our minds, slow down our emotions, slow down our bodies so that we can be more still. Any kind of spiritual practice has that effect. Just because we're here meditating, this is helping us to be more still. It may not seem like it because we start to notice just how unstill we are. We need to move, we need to fidget, we want to get up, we need to go to the bathroom, we need to get a drink. Whatever it may be, we start to notice these things. And that's really a good thing. As I mentioned before, this relativity of stillness, as we try to get still, we start to notice just how not still we may be. And from a body-mind standpoint, it can be really good to have some physical activity in these areas, whether it's something like yoga asana, the practice of yoga postures, tai chi, qigong, something where the body is moving, even walking outside in nature, something where your body is moving to bring that integration of body and mind together is very supportive for helping us to start to be a bit more still. And this brings me to time in nature. That's a huge one. And unfortunately, it's not always the easiest thing to do, but even just stepping outside the door for a few minutes can make a big difference. And some practices that you might try if you do have a few minutes to step outside, you could just gaze at the sky. Just look at the blue sky, not directly at the sun, obviously, but just look up at the blue sky. This has a way of actually almost cleansing the senses. If you think about all the things that we're taking in our environment through work, whether we're reading hard copy materials, we're looking at a screen, we're getting direction, we're giving direction, all these things that we're doing at work, that moment that we take to just gaze up at the blue sky starts to kind of clear out and neutralize all those senses, and in a way starts to bring us to a point of more stillness. We can look towards positive impressions. You know, sky gazing would be kind of like uniform impressions, kind of gives us a blank slate. It doesn't have to be the sky, but the sky is a great way to do it. Could be a body of water. There's not an ocean close, but there are lakes, ponds, fountains. You could just, even a swimming pool will work. Just gaze into the water for a couple of minutes. And it will be a very big shift in what's going on in mind and body. And then there's positive impressions. Again, this helps in nature too, but you could do it with photographs, magazines. Look at something that you find attractive, pretty, enjoying in nature. Whether you go out and look at some flowers, look at the amazingness of a big tree or a little tree, look at the little plant that's growing in the crack in the sidewalk. Take some time to look at these things, and these impressions of nature, again, start to counteract all this artificial things that we take in from the world that we live in, all the artificial stimuli. And so it just starts to recondition our senses, whether that be looking at something. You can actually touch things in nature. You can smell them, obviously. If you're careful and know what you're doing, you could taste things. Just, you know, be mindful of what it is that you're tasting. And very much we can hear things. We can hear nature even mixed in with all the city noises. So in tuning our senses to these more natural elements, it starts to give our senses and our nervous system these positive impressions to go with. Another thing is visualization. Visualization can be good because it requires us to go inward. And you can really visualize anything. However, I'm going to go back to something natural. A flower is really good to do this with. If you have a flower in a vase, it could be an artificial flower. Maybe you just look out your window and see a flower. Look at it for a few moments and then close your eyes and endeavor as best you can to keep seeing that flower in your mind. This not only exercises concentration, it exercises imagination. It creates a deep focus and ultimately brings us more deeply inward, where we can start to tap into that stillness that is there. All right, so these are all things that you can try at any time. And then a couple of things that we'll do here before I finish up. I've done this one previously. It's been a while, several talks ago. And so we're going to do a little pranayama exercise. We're going to do a Brahmari pranayama, and we're going to try it in two different ways. So one way, we're going to make some noise, which will help to clear the mind. Another way, we're going to do it completely silent. And basically, in this technique, we physically are going to close off our senses as best we can. Don't do it yet, because I want you to be able to hear me. We'll use our thumbs, and we'll find the little tragus, the flap of skin at the front of the ear, and you close your ears. You don't have to do it yet. Just listen to me. I'll talk us through again in a minute. We'll close the ears. And this is going to sound weird to talk, but I'll keep talking. We'll use the first two fingers over the eyes. You don't really have to push them closed. Just close your eyes and hold your fingers there. We're going to leave the nose open so nobody has to panic about not being able to breathe. And then the ring finger and little finger go over the lips. And so in that way, we'll be closing off sight. We'll be closing off our hearing. We'll be closing off our speech. We'll still be able to obviously feel things. And we'll still be able to smell things and breathe just fine. So the first way that we're going to do this, once we close off all those senses, is we will hum. And so with your ears and eyes closed, you'll find that this hum is very loud in your head. It can be great if you direct the vibration of the hum up into your sinuses and forehead, but it's not necessary. You can try to do that though. If you're not sure what to hum, try humming the letter M sound, just mm. And what we'll do is we'll do this for 3 or 4 breaths, and we don't have to be in unison. And the reason I want to do it with the breath first, that's traditionally the way that it's done. And it's going to very much clear the mind out. And then after those 3 or 4 breaths, keep the hands over the eyes, the ears, the mouth, and just be there in silence, breathing through your nose. And after we do that for just a few moments, then I'll start talking again and everybody can put their hands down. But I want you to get the experience of the humming vibration and that loud sound in your head, which will be tremendously clearing and focusing, followed by just the silence of having the ears and the eyes and the mouth closed to get that experience. Okay. So let's begin here. Go ahead and cover up your ears if you like. Cover your eyes lightly, and index finger, or sorry, the ring finger and little finger over the mouth. Just take a nice long breath in, and on your exhale, hum. Hopefully it's a nice long hum, and do it for at least 3 breaths. And at some point, you'll stop making that humming noise. Keep everything closed, eyes closed, ears closed, and just breathe in and out through your nose in this silence for a moment. Okay, you can relax your arms down whenever you like, and just sit there again for a few more moments and just notice whatever you notice. Things may feel different, they may sound different. When you open your eyes, they'll probably look different. And the only thing that's really changed is the state of our mind. We're more still. And as we become more still, we see more of that truth that's before us, as was in that reading that Michael gave us. Okay, so one more exercise that we can try here. And, you know, any or all of these, try them on your own. I'm giving several here because some of them are a little bit easier than others. And so, hopefully there'll be some benefit. The other thing we're going to do is called the Shambhavi Mudra. And this is going to be similar to meditating. However, our eyes will remain open. So if anybody's ever heard of open-eyed stillness, that's basically what this practice is. And what I would like you to do is just sit comfortably as you are. Keep your eyes open, but let your eyes go soft. Look with soft eyes. You can either gaze straight off across the room. You could look forward and down a little bit. Either one is fine. Don't really look up. That tends to add a little tension into the face. But let your eyes be soft. So you're not really sharply focusing on any particular thing. You can obviously see things in your peripheral vision, in your field of vision. The eyes remain very soft. Your body is relatively relaxed. You're aware of your breathing. You can feel your breathing in your body. Just continuing to let the focus go soft. And as you have this soft, open-eyed focus, begin to sense or feel or imagine that rather than looking outward, you're starting to look back inward, looking inward at yourself, towards yourself, within yourself. Staying relaxed, your breath flowing naturally in and out. The eye gaze is soft, diffuse. But there's this sense of looking back within. And just do that for a few more moments. Open to whatever arises. And then you can just gradually start to bring a little bit of movement back into your body. And notice what that feels like. I noticed a few people had their eyes closed. That's okay. However, for the practice, it's better to have the eyes open. Closing the eyes is a totally different experience when we are going into that kind of state. That was a very short amount of time. If you start to do that for longer amounts of time, what you may start to find is that whatever your eyes are visually seeing may start to get very strange to you. If that's the case, don't worry about it. It's perfectly normal. You may start to feel like you're seeing things that aren't there, hallucinating, however you want to label it. It's just what happens. When we go farther and farther inward, the way we are interpreting what our physical eyes are seeing is very different. So there's a few things that I mentioned that we didn't actually practice, but things you can do outside on your own or at home. Flower gazing or going outside and looking at the sky to help clear your mind and slow things down. Taking some time away from media. Something else I'll add with the media, whether we realize it or not, it has a very, even more than we realize, it has a deep influence on us. And I don't know what the latest shows are that are very intensely dramatic and violent and action oriented. But if you watch one of those shows for a few minutes, and then you go watch The Joy of Painting, watch Bob Ross paint on a canvas, you'll notice a difference, right? So there is a big difference in, we can consider the kind of TV we consume almost like these associations. We wouldn't want to be around these situations that we see in TV shows in real life, yet we're right there watching them on a TV show or a movie or whatever it may be. So just keep these things in mind because it does have an impact on ourselves and our level of stillness. And before I wrap up, I wanted to read just a short little thing here. And I've read from this book before, but I mentioned the 8 limbs of yoga, classical yoga. That comes from an ancient text called the Yoga Sutras. There's lots of translations, lots of interpretations. The one that I'm going to read from here, I would call a very poetic interpretation and translation, rather than being a kind of word for word translation. And I'm going to read just a part here that deals with this aspect of pratyahara. And if you're interested, this book is by Alberto Villoldo. And he is, I believe, Cuban, and he studies psychology and shamanism. When the mind no longer darts from one object to another, one thought to another, a bird alighting on one branch then the next, then it is free to turn within, like a turtle withdrawing into its shell. This is pratyahara. Attain mastery of the senses, and they will no longer pull you this way and that. Sights no longer call to you, yearning for your attention. Sounds no longer beckon you. Tastes do not fascinate you or make you wince. You experience yourself and the world as if for the first time. So similar to that experience that you had immediately after doing the what's called the bee breath. Things sounded different, things looked different, as if experiencing the world for the first time. That's what starts to happen as we build these greater levels of stillness. Things become new and different. Meditation will start to take on a new meaning, a new impact. Anything you do in your life will start to take on a new meaning and a new impact. So anything you're able to do, no matter how small, even if it's just 1 minute a day, I encourage you to consciously think about this aspect of pratyahara, of reducing the effects of external stimulation on your mind, your body, because even just for a brief moment, it makes a big difference. So thank you for letting me share that. I'm sure there's lots of other things that I could have said, but that was exactly what needed to be said in the moment, apparently. And I'm happy to do my best to answer any questions. If anybody's got questions, or during sharing, if anything comes up, I'll offer what I've got. Thank you all.
Thank you.